Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Shitty Mike Podcast. I'm once again here with you today, but this time I am awake. This is your host. Random mug on my desk and a V8 track of Charlie Pride Volume 9. And today I'm going to be talking about something I feel like I've been wanting to just, ramble about for a little bit now, which is welding. Welding's neat. For the people who don't understand, just as much as I didn't, what welding is, it's the fusion of metal using a very high amount of electricity. So much so that it would probably kill you instantly if you didn't decide to do it safely. So, fun work. And today I really wanted to sort of go into and remind myself why I love my job, despite the frustrations, which is what I voiced mostly in last episode, which is pretty short. This one's going to probably be pretty short, too. I've noticed that my ADHD gets in the way of me making long-form content, which, I'm not honestly that surprised of. I kind of do these things when I want to, when I feel like it. I kind of see them as sort of like an outlet in a way. But, of course, back to our main central topic, welding. Welding's really interesting for a whole variety of reasons. There's a whole lot of processes you can do. It's been around for a considerable amount of time, and even still, we're very much learning so much about it to this very day. There's whole new processes being created, in new and exciting ways. Robots the size of warehouses, that kind of thing. And just, I saw a video recently on this whole new thing that I at least hadn't seen before. It was a laser welder, where they use almost like a laser precision laser or something like that to fuse metal together. And, I watched a video by a guy kind of going into it, sort of trying to disprove it. And he did actually a really good job justifying why it could be a good application in smaller shops. And I thought that was really neat. As a welder, or as a new welder, I'm not going to lie, I've been a structural welder for 7 months now. And it's been extremely gratifying, I guess is the word to say. Satisfying. I'm not really sure. But as someone with very severe ADHD, it's a very structured job, and I very much appreciate that as somebody who needs a schedule. And I really appreciate it for a whole variety of reasons. But I think it's really neat, what I get to do, because we're doing very heavy-duty welding, at least in my shop. And a lot of it is using very fucking expensive machinery to get things done, but it still has the air of being relaxed. It's kind of weird how my job is. It's either you're completely stressing on a deadline because this thing wasn't produced or worked on for 2 weeks, or you're fucking just completely stressed out. Well, my apologies on that, folks. I seem to have verbally glitched. It's either very relaxing, just sort of standing around doing fuck all with your job, which is where I kind of find a lot of my frustrations with it. Today's episode is just kind of sort of really laid back. I wanted to talk about welding. I don't have an outlet to talk about welding, besides with obviously the people I work with, which is a bunch of welders who are substantially better than me in every single regard. I'm very, very, very fucking happy every time I get to see what they're up to. But I'm just laying it out there, I find TIG to be really interesting, I can barely handle using MIG. I think MIG is extremely cool, but TIG, whenever I get to see some of the guys in my shop work, they just have this way of doing it that's just very, very interesting. And it's just, I've heard TIG be described as sort of the artistic version. It's artistic version of welding, and I can very much agree with that. When you're using MIG, it's very, straightforward. I've once heard somebody say that you could teach MIG to a monkey, and I could honestly agree with that. Once you get a hang of it, especially when it's in some of the more simpler processes, it could be easy to learn but very hard to master. Like, even myself, I won't ever toot my own horn. I'm a very horrible welder, but I'm slowly learning, slowly getting better at it. Better is kind of big air quotes, because I'd like to be able to do more, but trying to honestly, I'm just trying to gauge how long I want these to be, because it's supposed to be sort of for me, I guess I can end them whenever I want. but I kind of just find welding being a very interesting process. You know, like I went into it because it was the highest paying job in my area. You know, I got hired on, got trained, and I'm slowly starting to realize like it's a very cool job to do. You know, you get to look cool while you do it. You get to literally bend metal to fuse metal together using, you know, plasma, and it's, you know, you're right in front of it. But you know, I feel like sometimes I just have to remind myself why I do this. You know, because it's difficult. It's very, very difficult, you know, sometimes to go into a place and not be able to do what you've been trained to do. And it's just, I don't know. I always found myself kind of wandering into things in life, you know, like, I never expected myself a year ago to be a welder, and, you know, here I am now, wearing my weld cap as I'm recording this, and you know, I never thought I would be here, and it's just very fucking interesting, to do. Like, honestly, this is just rambling, of course, you know, I don't do a script with these. It's called the Shitty Mike Podcast, or the Shitty Mike Cast. I didn't even know what name to choose for this, because, you know, I just made this one day. I just thought, you know, it'd be interesting to do. So there's no script, obviously. That's why there's just a bunch of stuttering and sort of jumping in between topics. I didn't really give like an introduction at all the last time because, you know, it was a very personal thing. It was like fucking 3 in the morning by the time I went to bed, and I really need an outlet just to talk, and I find that this is a really good way of doing it. 7 minutes. I'm surprised I can talk that long. I'm gonna give a conclusionary remark. Welding's cool. I think it's alright. This is my rambling session over. You have a good day, folks. Outro here. Bing, bing, bing.